What is the connection between an ordinary person living in Britain and what is happening in Palestine? This is what we're going to explore. How does our actions as consumers in this country affect what happens to the Palestinians? We will start by looking at what is actually happening in Palestine. What does the occupation mean to ordinary Palestinians? How does it touch their lives? Palestine is an agricultural society. The people work hard throughout the year, cultivating the land to produce a harvest, which in return sustains them. We will see how their harvest is stolen from them, and how their land is stolen from them. And we will follow the stolen produce of Palestine to the UK, on the way exposing the Israeli companies that are involved in its export. And we're going to be looking at the supermarkets that stock the stolen produce. We will reveal how Israel especially produces an early crop of dates in time for Ramadan, which with the collaboration of Muslim shops in this country, it sells to Muslims who, unaware, break their fasts with stolen dates, making a mockery of their faith. Finally, we're going to look at what we can do about it, how we can actually start supporting the Palestinians. Just to give a very small example of how the Israeli occupation affects the day-to-day lives of ordinary Palestinians, let's have a look at the story of Zainab Turabi. She is a 60-year-old woman who lives alone with her sons in the small village of Sarah on the West Bank. From her home, she can see her olive grove, but in order to reach it, she has to cross a road that now only Israeli settlers and the Israeli army are allowed to use. You see, 7 years ago, an armed Israeli settlement was built on top of the hill next to her olive grove. Like any fortress, Israeli settlements tend to be built on hilltops, from where it's easier to terrorize the population below. Now the road to the settlement cuts Zainab from her land. To cross that road, she needs written permission from the district command office, which is difficult to get. 2 years ago, she managed to get permission to go to her land for the olive harvest. But when she arrived, the Israeli settlers had already taken most of her olives, and only one basket was left for her to fill. The settlers, not content with stealing her olives, returned and burnt down her trees. The next time Zainab tried to visit her olive grove, the Israeli settlers threatened her with guns and dogs. They said if she ever came back, they would kill her. Zainab Turabi is now too frightened to even dare try approaching her land. This is a glimpse of the anguish one Palestinian woman lives with. Every Palestinian has their own story of suffering. You see, the settlers were only obeying their religious leader, Rabbi Mordecai Eliyahu, the former chief rabbi, who in 2002 passed a religious edict urging Israeli settlers to steal Palestinian food produce. Realizing that stealing their food and livelihoods is the first step to ethnically cleansing the Palestinians from the land, he had declared that the fruit from the trees planted by Gentiles on the land of Israel does not belong to the Gentiles, but is the property of the Jews. So it is not considered stealing when Jews rob Palestinians. Such pronouncements have led to the theft of thousands of whole olive trees. On 15th June last year, armed colonists from the settlements of Amiad, Shiloh and Ella came down the hill to the Palestinian village of Karyuth near Nablus and uprooted 380 olive trees which had been planted by the Palestinian villagers some 50 years ago, and simply stole them. 300 of them were owned by 74-year-old Palestinian farmer Ahmed Shahada Makbil. An olive tree can take 12 years to bear fruit. The stolen trees are irreplaceable. The colonists have since replanted the stolen trees in the illegal Israeli settlements. And this isn't the first time. The last time the armed settlers from Shiloh came down and stole 800 olive and almond trees and grape vines. And the time before that, they uprooted all the productive olive trees from the 4 acres of land belonging to Hamad Badawi Abdul Hay. And not satisfied with stealing his trees, they then went on to steal his 4 acres of land and annexed it to the Shiloh settlement. Hundreds of thousands of trees have been destroyed by the Israelis. The Palestinian Ministry of Agriculture recorded 374,030 Palestinian trees being uprooted by the Israelis just between September 2000 and June 2001. The video, Shame of Urtus, which was made by peace activists, shows the destruction and confiscation of a Palestinian apricot orchard which sustained the village of Urtus near Bethlehem. The land is stolen to support the nearby illegal Israeli settlement of Ephrata, which is on the hilltop above the valley. Palestinian farmers watching helplessly as their livelihoods disappear in front of their eyes, crushed by an Israeli army digger, while soldiers are seen laughing as they watch a Palestinian farmer struggling to rescue one young apricot plant from destruction. Ephrata is an English-speaking colony with many of its 8,000 armed settlers having arrived from the USA. Their chief rabbi himself immigrated from Manhattan. Apparently the valley is needed for their sewage to pass through, so the Palestinians must sacrifice their livelihood. The video ends showing the Palestinian farmer weeping for his destroyed fruit trees, and yet defiant, he swears by Almighty God that one day he will plant his orchard again.
والله بالربي بنحلم حالنا بنيجي نزرع الشجر اقسم بالله وبنطلب منهم ساعه بس نحط شيك بيقولوا فيش معنا بس بيروحوا بيسجروا بيروحوا على الخمرات والبيارات وبيضيعوا ملايين الدنانير ويقولوا احنا في فقر واحنا يا الله اكبر.
The Israeli state rewards the theft of Palestinian land by giving cash handouts and other incentives to any Jew anywhere in the world who is prepared to come to Israel and steal more Palestinian land. For example, Jews who agree to live on the illegal settlements in the Jordan Valley have each been rewarded with 15 acres of stolen Palestinian land, free housing, free education, free healthcare, and free stolen irrigation water, and 75% of their electricity, utility, telephone, and transport bills are paid for by the state, and they are also given $20,000 long-term loan to help them settle in on someone else's land. As for the Palestinians, any of their land that they are not able to cultivate for 3 consecutive years is taken away from them, even if that land was closed by military order and access to it prevented by soldiers or settlers with threats of death. Next time you see Israeli olives, Jaffa oranges or other Israeli fruit at your supermarket, let's think of Zainab Durabi and how they stole her olive grove. Share Zainab's story with the store manager. Explain to him, politely, that it hurts and offends you to see the fruits of oppression on sale at your supermarket. The largest importer of fresh produce originating from Israel and its illegal settlements into this country and the rest of Europe is Carmel Agrexco. It handles some 60 to 70% of all goods produced in the illegal settlements. They supply most of the big supermarkets with Israeli fruits, vegetables and flowers. It is half owned by the Israeli government and its UK headquarters is in Hayes, near Heathrow Airport. A committed and brave group of activists has campaigned tirelessly for several years against the company. They have picketed the entrance, blockading it by chaining themselves to the gates and to the trucks loading Israeli produce, bringing the company to a complete standstill for most of the day, resulting in huge losses of revenue for Israel. On one occasion they even managed to enter the depot and replace the Israeli flag flying on the flagpole with a Palestinian one. In November 2004, several protesters were arrested, but the judge acquitted them, ruling that Agrexco must prove its business is lawful. The International Court of Justice in 2004 ruled that the Israeli settlements are illegal, built on stolen land. Carmel Agrexco is guilty of importing produce grown on stolen land. Since then, the company is reluctant to prosecute the demonstrators. Here is an interview with one of the activists following a blockade in July 2007.
I'm one of a group who just invaded Carmel Agrexco's property, went into their warehouse, handed out leaflets to the workers, locked onto one of their trucks and hoisted a Palestinian flag over the depot. They don't seem to want to prosecute us because they don't want the details of their business coming out in court. And that's because in 2004 a group of activists blockaded the depot, and there ensued a court case for aggravated trespass, where a judge ordered that Agrexco had to disclose details of the settlements on Palestinian land, occupied Palestinian land that the company dealt with. Agrexco had to disclose details of those settlements, and they were exposed to a lot of public scrutiny and public anger about what they were doing. Since then, I think 5 similar actions have taken place where the company have refused to prosecute protesters who've disrupted their business because they don't want any more bad publicity. And what this company do, they export produce, fruit and veg, avocados, flowers, herbs, from settlements mainly in the Jordan Valley in the West Bank, which go to all the major supermarkets in the UK. When we were in the depot just now, we saw trucks from Tesco's, etc. We saw goods marked with going to Tesco's on the boxes, and these products are grown on stolen Palestinian land, on land which has been taken from the Palestinians by military conquest. Israeli settlers are able to get their produce to European markets in 48 hours, whereas Palestinian farmers' goods are left rotting in the fields because of the illegal Israeli checkpoints. They can't even get their goods to the market in Nablus. That's a local market a few miles away because of the apartheid restrictions. I was in the Jordan Valley earlier this year, and I went to a village called Fasail, where the Palestinians in the village are slowly being transferred out of the area. They're being forced out of the area because the Israeli army won't let them build any new houses within the area. The only thing that Palestinians are able to do in that area is work for Carmel Agrexco. They don't want to, and when you speak to them, they tell you that the best thing that you can do to support them is to campaign against companies like this. But that's the only livelihood that's left open to them at the moment because of the apartheid system. And I spoke to 2 children under the age of 12 who were working for Carmel Agrexco on illegal settlements for under 30 shekels a day. So this company really is involved in a sordid, grubby business, and we hope the campaign grows against them.
An important point that comes out of the interview is that the Palestinians who are forced to work for Carmel Agrexco in order to feed their families, who are forced to even send their young children who get a pittance for a back-breaking day's work, who would lose their jobs if Carmel Agrexco collapsed, they themselves are urging us to help them by taking action against Carmel Agrexco and such companies that support Israeli apartheid. What excuse is left for us not to boycott? Israel exports well over £16 million worth of flowers to the UK every year. The most profitable time for the sale of Israeli flowers is the run-up to Valentine's Day. Each year at this critical time, this courageous group of activists takes action in a non-violent blockade outside the depot gates. This year, Carmel, not wishing to take the court route again, instead resorted to violence. Their security guards attacked the protesters. One woman was punched to the ground and kicked, and a video camera was smashed. This, however, did not stop the brave activists, who once again managed to blockade the Israeli depot on one of its most busiest days of the year. And this year, activists in Belgium also joined in a similar blockade of the Carmel depot in Belgium. This is the level of dedication to justice that non-Muslims have shown to the Palestinian cause in this country. How shameful it is then to see in Ramadan crates of Carmel dates on sale in halal Muslim shops. How can a fast be broken by the eating of stolen dates? And this at a time when Israel is starving the Palestinians.
I was going during the holy month of Ramadan. As we moved towards the Eid, I was going around Muslim shops in Tower Hamlets and elsewhere, telling them that although they had collection boxes for the mosque, although they had religious imagery in their shops, although they were selling dates to the faithful people to break their fast, the dates were made in Israel. They were stained with the blood of the Palestinian people, and Muslim shopkeepers were selling them. Let's resolve now that at least in Tower Hamlets, next Ramadan, not a single Israeli date will be sold in any shop in this borough of Tower Hamlets. Let's promise that now over the internet to the Palestinian people. We should be boycotting them as all self-respecting people boycotted apartheid South Africa. We must make it, as it was then, a mark of shame to someone that they were buying the blood-stained products of racism and apartheid. Israel is just as racist, Israel is just as apartheid a state as South Africa ever was, and it must be treated exactly like that.
Carmel Agrexco's press release last September, 1 week before the start of Ramadan, announced, "New harvest of Carmel medjool dates is already in Europe." It boasted that they had managed an early crop in order to be ready to meet the demand for dates from Europe's Muslim population in Ramadan. One Muslim group found that last Ramadan, 6 out of 8 Muslim grocery shops in Manchester were selling Israeli dates. Growing dates is one of the major agricultural activities carried out by nearly half of the illegal Israeli settlements located in the Jordan Rift Valley. It's their most profitable crop. contributing significantly to their economic viability. Picking off the dates is hard work, and Palestinian labourers are used for this. An Israeli newspaper, Haaretz, did an expose on how the Palestinian workers are exploited. During the pruning season, the workers are dropped off on the palm trees by a hoisting crane at 5 o'clock in the morning, left perched on palms that soar to a height of 10 or even 12 meters, the height of a 3 or 4-story building, left there for up to 8 hours without a break and with no means to come down until the crane returns at the end of the day. The workers cling to the tree with one arm and work with the other to meet their quota. If they complain or fall behind their quota, they will lose their jobs and their families will starve. One Palestinian worker, when asked, "What do you think about up there on the tree?" he replied, "As soon as I climb up on the tree, the only thing I think about is how to get down from it. I don't think about anything other than how not to fall out of the tree and how to manage to complete the quota. I know that at any moment I can fall and die, or fall and become a cripple, break an arm or a leg. So we work with one hand and hold the tree with the other. It's terribly hard. Your body cramps up. The people are nervous, afraid. The whole time you're crouching on your feet. I'm most afraid when there's a strong wind. The tree shakes and you're scared to death of falling." When asked, "If you're hungry or have to go to the toilet, what do you do?" he replied, "I take food and water up with me. We have a bag and you tie it to the tree. You eat with one hand and with the other hold the tree. If you want to go to the toilet, you can't. You're not allowed to come down. So you go while you're up in the tree, only water, only urinating. It's the hardest thing, not just physically, but also personally, to relieve yourself. You think about it a lot, because it's hard culturally, hard in terms of politeness. Everyone is looking at you. What if you need to go for a long visit to the toilet?" He replied, "It's impossible. You try and hold it in the whole day. You force yourself for hours." But the Israelis prefer using children in the date industry, as the kids are quick and light, can climb trees faster, work for less, and it's easier to cheat and humiliate them. The Israeli civil administration even issues Palestinian children with official work permits. When asked about the children, the workers admitted it was desperate poverty that forces families to remove their children from school and hand them over to the settlers to work for a pittance. Most of the Israeli date crop, up to 80%, is exported, mainly to Europe, where it has around 10% market share. In 2005, dates were Israel's leading fruit export. These facts make Israeli dates a good target for boycotting. If you oppose the illegal Israeli settlements, target their dates. Boycotting Israeli dates can really make a difference. The two main Israeli companies involved are Agrexco and Hadiklam. Agrexco, as previously mentioned, handles 60 to 70% of all goods produced in the illegal settlements. Its dates have brand names Carmel, Jordan Plains, and Jordan Valley. Hadiklam sells 65% of all dates produced in Israel. Its dates have brand names King Solomon and Jordan River. They also supply Israeli dates to supermarkets and retail chains who market them under their own brand names. These include Marks & Spencer's, Sainsbury's, Tesco's, and Waitrose. We have a campaign page on our website about boycotting Israeli dates, www.inminds.co.uk. It includes sample letters for you to send to your local grocery shop, as well as sample letters for the supermarkets that are stocking Israeli dates, and printable leaflets which includes a concise background and reasons for boycotting Israeli dates, and identifies which date brands are of Israeli origin. This video is also available on our website. Let's take a step today to eradicating Israeli dates from our community. Let's pledge today that we will not support the oppression of our brothers and sisters in Palestine. We will not buy the fruits they stole from Zainab Turabi and all the other Palestinians living and dying under occupation. To boycott Israeli goods is to stop supporting the oppressor, Israel. The next step from that is to start supporting the oppressed, the Palestinians. One way to do that is to start buying Palestinian goods. Zaytoon is a non-profit organization established to support marginalized farming communities in Palestine. They help Palestinian farmers access the UK market. Palestine is the home of the olive tree, with some of the oldest olive groves in the world, dating back some 2,000 years. The livelihoods of over half of the Palestinian population, including Zainab Turabi, are dependent on this tree. Zaytoon helps find a marketplace in the UK for Palestinian fair trade olive oil and other produce, including Palestinian medjool dates. The dates are produced in the Jericho region by the Palestinian Palm Farmers Cooperative. They are a vital source of income in this area, which is seeing vast tracts of Palestinian land being illegally confiscated by Israel. It's amazing how Palestinians who are practically living in a prison controlled by Israel, whose only access to the world is through Israel, even then they make every effort to boycott Israel. Canaan, Zaytoon's Palestinian suppliers, who produce and bottle the olive oil, revealed that they import the bottles from Italy rather than buy them locally. You see, locally available bottles all originate from Israel. Their policy is, whenever possible, boycott Israeli sources. They explained that this isn't always possible. For example, the labels on the bottles, whilst printed in Nablus, they cannot guarantee the ink and paper used is always imported. Sometimes it might originate from Israel. This level of commitment to the boycott, where they even consider where the ink on the sticky labels on their products comes from, puts the rest of us, who actually have an easy choice of avoiding Israeli goods, to shame. A quick look at Zaytoon's website, www.zaytoon.org, which includes a list of sellers who stock their products, reveals that their dates are very competitively priced. 250 grams of Palestinian medjool dates costs just £2. Compare this to Israeli medjool dates, which are being sold in Sainsbury's in much smaller packs of 200 grams for the same £2, or in Marks & Spencer's at twice the price. By the way, sometimes Israeli produce is labelled produce of the West Bank. It doesn't mean it's Palestinian produce, but rather confirms that it's produced on the illegal Israeli settlements on stolen Palestinian land. Sainsbury's medjool dates is one such example. It says grown in the West Bank, but a closer look reveals it's grown by Netiv Hakdud. In 1976, an armed settlement was created on 260 acres of stolen Palestinian land in the Jordan Valley. Today, 127 Israeli colonists are posted there. That illegal settlement is Netiv Hakdud. Netiv Hakdud was one of the settlements mentioned in the Haaretz expose on the exploitation of Palestinian date workers. Netiv Hakdud's secretary, Maggie Mayudek, however, denied any responsibility or knowledge of the exploitation of Palestinian workers. She said, "I never saw people hanging from the trees." Those dates that are sold in Sainsbury's, costing more than Zaytoon's, are the product of Palestinian exploitation and theft. Can you think of a better way for us to break our fasts in Ramadan than by a Palestinian date? Imagine the boost it would give the Palestinian economy if every Muslim made it a tradition to always break our fast with Palestinian dates. Another organization that helps the Palestinians and deserves our full support is Interpal. One of the projects they run is to plant new olive trees in Palestine. For as little as £10, you can plant an olive tree in your child's name, for example. It makes a great birthday or Eid present, which gives your child a tangible connection to Palestine. They will treasure their certificate, knowing they have an olive tree named after them in Palestine. Interpal is also a distributor for Zaytoun's products from Palestine, and in future they will be marketing Palestinian handicrafts in the UK. Visit their website www.interpal.org for full details of all their projects in Palestine. Every leading ulema from every school of thought in Islam is united in their support for a boycott of Israel and those that support Israel. Imam Sayyid Ali Khamenei has said, "The purchase of any item which helps strengthen Zionism is not permissible unless it reaches the point of necessity." 15th May 2001. Sheikh Yusuf al-Qaradawi, when asked about the boycott, replied, "We see our brothers and children in Al-Aqsa and the blessed land of Palestine generously sacrificing their blood, giving their souls willingly in the way of Allah. All Muslims must help them with whatever power they have. The vehicle of this support is a complete boycott of the enemy's goods. Each riyal, dirham, etc. used to buy their goods eventually becomes bullets to be fired at the hearts of brothers and children in Palestine. For this reason, it is an obligation not to help them, the enemies of Islam, by buying their goods. To buy their goods is to support tyranny, oppression and aggression. Buying goods from them will strengthen them. Our duty is to make them as weak as we can. Our obligation is to strengthen our resisting brothers in the sacred land as much as we can. If we cannot strengthen the brothers, we have a duty to make the enemy weak. If their weakness cannot be achieved except by boycott, we must boycott them." 4th April 2002. Ayatollah al-Sayyid Ali al-Sistani, in his book A Code of Practice for Muslims in the West, includes 2 fatwas on the boycott. He states that it is not permissible for a Muslim to buy products of the countries that are in a state of war with Islam and Muslims, for example Israel. And in reply to the question, is it permissible to buy from shops that dedicate part of their profits to supporting Israel? He answers, "We do not allow that." These were just a few examples of the blanket support our ulema have given to the boycott. In fact, we couldn't find one instance of a single ulema being opposed to the boycott. And these fatwas are not new. Imam Khomeini gave a fatwa urging a boycott of Israeli goods over 40 years ago. Isn't it about time that we heed the call of justice, that we stand with Palestine, that we oppose injustice and stand against Israel by boycotting it? Our beloved Prophet, peace be upon him, has said that he who wakes up in the morning and doesn't think about and care for the affairs of his fellow Muslims is not a Muslim. Let us today, just for a moment, think about our sister Zainab Turabi, a 60-year-old woman whose livelihood has been taken away from her, her olive grove stolen, her life threatened, terrorized, too frightened to even approach her land. Think of her just for a moment, and then let our hearts guide us as to what our responsibility is.
الله